We are joined by Joy Singhal. He's an acting head of delegation for Afghanistan, International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Joy, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We know that this quake has been described as one of Afghanistan's worst in years. Could you describe for us how dire the situation is on the ground in terms of casualties and level of destruction?
Good morning. Yes, thank you for having me. And you have very rightly described this is one of the devastating earthquakes that the country has faced in the past few years. The country faced an earthquake in 2023 and 2024 as well. So this country is no stranger to facing mega disasters. But this particular earthquake has affected a region which is extremely mountainous. It is very challenging to be able to reach those locations which are affected by the earthquake. There have been recent landslides in the areas because of the earthquake. And in the past few days, we have also seen massive rainfall. So search and rescue efforts are extremely difficult right now for us to be able to reach those areas which are affected and to rescue people out of the damaged homes. So we are actually using some of the airlifts for our teams to go there and to help find survivors. So it's an extremely difficult situation, absolutely, as you've described. And on top of it, the country is facing very massive malnutrition crisis, a food insecurity crisis. Plus, millions of Afghani nationals have been forced to return back from Pakistan and Iran in the past few months, which is compounding the crisis the country is facing at this point in time.
So, Joe, I want to get a sense of, what's really happening with the search and rescue teams. Now, you mentioned the helicopters, so they have been able to reach some of these areas, but obviously what they can do is very limited. So what's happening with the teams, the land-based teams now? Are they still attempting to reach, or are they basically, still at the base, waiting for the all clear so they can, I guess, use the roads which have been cleared to get to these villages that need help?
Yeah. So there are several things. I mean, first thing is that the Afghan Red Crescent Society, our main partner, they have got staff and volunteers almost in all the affected areas. So right at the time when the earthquake happened, midnight, we were regularly in touch with our staff and volunteers on the ground, and they have been sending us updates right early in the morning, 4 o'clock yesterday, of what they were seeing on the ground. So we already had teams in the ground which started to provide search and rescue efforts to the communities. But for them to be able to bring them to the main area where the hospitals are, it's extremely challenging. And for us to send our teams which are not based there is also very difficult. It could take up to 4 to 5 hours of walking time for a team of rescue operators to go there and then to fetch back either bodies or injured people to the base is proving to be an extraordinary challenge right now. Until the time the landslides are cleared up and the very narrow roads are also opened up, it would continue to be a massive undertaking for search and rescue. And once the people are brought to the area where there are functional hospitals, those hospitals are already overwhelmed by supplies and by the influx of survivors. So the health facilities are getting overwhelmed, overstretched, and it's difficult to provide them with basic life-saving first aid assistance as well.
Right. It is just past 6 o'clock where you are now in Kabul. And I imagine that there are a lot of, villagers who have had to spend the night, in the open because their homes have been destroyed. Is that your understanding of what's been happening as well?
That is absolutely right. I mean, so several thousands of people would have spent night out in the open. We do not have enough tents that we have been able to dispatch to those areas for people to be able to have a safe and secure, at least some roof over their head to spend the night in. And also, as we have seen in previous earthquakes, and this is no different, that you would have massive aftershocks after an earthquake. So even if there are buildings which have not been significantly impacted, people would be either not recommended, or they would also have a mental fear to be able to go back into those standing structures because there could be another aftershock which could make the building to be collapsed. So several people are out in the open. They have spent last night in the open, and this could be the situation for the next few days as well, till the time we are able to provide as humanitarian community support to all the people who would need it.
Joy, and the quake doesn't come in isolation. We understand the communities are already battling severe drought, hunger, as you mentioned earlier, and aid cuts. How does this earthquake compound those challenges, and how much harder does this make your job?
So, see, in Afghanistan in the past few decades, access to basic services has been very minimal. The country's almost 50% of the population has been receiving humanitarian assistance for the past several years. So, this particular earthquake is also going to compound the problem, as you're rightly saying, because the authorities and all of us would have to divert our attention from our ongoing relief and rehabilitation efforts in other parts of the country to this particular area. So if we are not able to increase our assistance to these people, both in terms of finance, in terms of food supplies, in terms of people on the ground, it would affect not just this area, but also other parts of Afghanistan.
And are you feeling it the most, because of the U.S. aid cuts? We know that the United States sharply reduced and perhaps may have completely, dropped aid to Afghanistan in the early part of 2025. Are you feeling the most impact from that right now?
See, so for this particular operation, not in particular, but aid cuts have affected our operations in Afghanistan anyway. I mean, this year our funding as compared to last year is significantly reduced, and that has meant that we have not been able to provide assistance to the people that we had wanted to at the start of this year. So, for example, our population movement appeal, from which we are providing support to the Afghan return families from Iran and Pakistan, is almost only about 18 to 20% covered at this point of time. So the funding cuts have significantly impacted our efforts and the efforts of all the other agencies as well in Afghanistan. And at this point of time, this earthquake is going to only compound an existing dire situation. So time is of essence. I mean, I think all the donor community and humanitarian agencies would need to put their hands on the deck to provide support to Afghanistan, not just now, but for the coming future as well.
Right. Joy, information, is coming through, but as with many of our viewers here, there are questions about what's been happening there, in particular with the Taliban government's response. Have they been providing people like you and search and rescue teams with full support for this ongoing crisis, particularly the foreign ones?
So see, we from the Red Cross, we work with our partner, the Afghanistan Red Crescent Society, and we work very closely with the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan authorities or the authorities which are in charge, and we have been able to access areas which are affected by the earthquake. So in that sense, I mean, we always ensure that we are focused by our principles of humanity, neutrality, and impartiality, and independence when we are engaging with the government, and it's no different in this particular situation. So simply put, yes, we do have access to the affected areas right now, but we are very mindful of the challenges in terms of infrastructure damage, in terms of landslides, in terms of also insecurity in several parts of the affected locations.
And Joy, looking ahead, Afghanistan has suffered multiple deadly quakes in just the past few years. Based on your experience, how long will recovery realistically take this time? Will it take months, or are we talking years?
History tells us that in these sort of situations, recovery and rehabilitation could take up to 18 to 24 months of time at a minimum. Because we are not just talking about rescue and relief right now, we are also talking about shelter reconstruction. We are also, because as you have yourself seen, all the houses are flattened and on the ground. So it would require a lot of logistical support for these houses to be reconstructed as per good quality building standards. And that is a long haul. That is a long haul undertaking that we would need to put into place for getting back the damaged health facilities, the damaged schools and houses, and also damaged roads. And this would take several months, in at least up to 24 months, for this to be made possible for a rehabilitation perspective.
All right, Joy, we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much. We appreciate the work that you're doing there. Thank you for talking to us. Joy Singhal is acting head of delegation for Afghanistan International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies.